Hello, my name is Paola Mier, and today I'm going to talk to you about cash crop agriculture in the Philippines. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about what is cash crop agriculture. Cash crops are crops that are grown specifically for the sale rather than for sustenance or personal consumption. They can either be food or non-food cash crops. Cash crops include some as rice, wheat, corn, vegetables that are grown for export or to sale in in markets. Non-food cash crops, on the other hand, include things as cotton, tobacco, coffee, tea, rubber, or sugarcane. This requires significant investment and a lot of labor. Agriculture is a very important sector in the Philippines. This is because it makes up to about 10% of the country's GDP. Cash crops, like I mentioned before, are a very important part of the agricultural sector. Some of the most important crops that are in the Philippines are coconut, sugarcane, bananas, pineapples, mangoes, coffee, tobacco, rice, and corn. First, I'm going to talk to you about the quantitative risks that are given by the indicators. Number one would be weather and climate change are very important indicators because events like typhoon, floods, and droughts in recent years have affected the agriculture in the Philippines in a very important way. Um, According to the Philippines Atmospheric and Geophysical Astronomical Service Administration, 22 of the tropical cyclones in 2020, like Typhoon Rolly and Typhoon Ulises, caused very significant damage to the agricultural crops and infrastructure. And droughts like El Nino led to a decrease in production of 2.57%. Number two is pest and disease outbreaks. Pest and disease outbreaks are a very important qualitative indicator because of the amount of outbreaks that the Philippines have suffered. Some of these would be the banana bunchy top virus in 2019 that affected over 2,000 acres of banana farms. Another would be the fall A-worm pest that have affected over 12,000 hectares of corn farms. Number three would be market volatility. Market volatility is important because cash crop agriculture is very dependent on it. Um, the cash crop agriculture business decreased by 42.7% in 2019, talking about coconuts. And in 2020, it was reported that the coffee production decreased in 6.4. This created a very big dent in the country's economy. Number four would be labor ability and costs. This is a major risk factor because the cash crops require very laborious work, and with shortage of skilled workers, it is something that cannot be done. According to the Philippine Statistic Authority, 22.5 million workers in 2019 representing over 27.5 of the population were unemployed. Number five would be land tenure issues. This is because a lot of land in the Philippines is being fought over because some of this land could be called ancestral over other reforms of agrarian reforms that have caused problems to 70% of the agricultural lands in the Philippines. Number four would be access to financing and technology. This is because in the Philippines they have limited access to technology, especially the people that work for cash crops. And 98% of the farms in the country are small scale and they cannot afford very advanced technologies that are very expensive. Crop agriculture in the Philippines is very limited and is mostly done by hand. And processes like mechanizations are very expensive. Now we're going to talk about the quantitative risks. The number one quantitative risk that I found was production volatility index. This is because it measures the variability of crop production year to year, and in the Philippines, it has been steadily increasing. This represents a really big risk for cash crop agriculture. In 2020, it was at 3%. Number two is crop damage index. This measures the percentage of crops damaged by natural disasters and typhoons. And in 2020, it was 2.28, indicating a really high risk for cash crop agriculture due to natural diseases that we talked about before with the typhoons and the droughts. Number three is import deficiency ratio. Import dependency ratio. This one measures to what extent a country depends on imported goods and domesticated demand. In the Philippines, it has been increasing since 2017, reaching a 17.4 in 2020, indicating a really big rise, a really big risk in supplies like rice, because then we can see that they need imports and not exports. Number five is the price volatility index. Number 5 is a price volatility index. This measures the variability of crop prices from year to year, and it also has been steadily increasing since 2017. This, as well as it causes a good thing for farmers, it can also be bad because if inflation costs also increase, they can lose from their crops. In 2020, this index was a 16.6%. Finally, in terms of trade index, this measures the relationship between the prices received by the farmers and the prices get paid by the farmers. In 2020, it was a 94.4%. This represents a really big risk because it has been decreasing profitability over the last couple of years. Since in 2019, it was 96.5, and in 2018, it was 97.1. In conclusion, cash crop agriculture in the Philippines is a subject to many risks, but on the qualitative indicator fronts, we can mitigate these risks by, like I said before, adopting sustainable farming practices, being able to fumigate, soil conservation, and investments in education and training. On the quantitative side, in the indexes presented, the declining of productivity and increased prices of inputs are what is doing a lot of damage to the Philippines, and they need to be addressed, but they can also be fought with education and training, and also being able to understand the market fluctuations. An effort to mitigate these risks will create a very good agricultural economy in the Philippines, since they have really good opportunities to grow a lot of different types of cash crops, and all of the policies support the sustainable agriculture. Overall, effective risk management in the Philippines, when adopting all of these solutions that we have told, can improve the resilience and increase the economic growth in the country.